I can't remember my childhood. Is this normal? I am the same. I remember almost nothing from my childhood and very little from middle school/high school. I think a big reason is I dislike reminiscing and don't talk a lot in anecdotes. So never really been discussing memories with others, which I think is a big reason many store them. This isn't due to trauma though. I just find it tedious and uninteresting to talk about. Also, people fill in blanks over time. Or even think they remember things that parents have been telling stories of. There have been studies connecting depression to both short and long-term memory loss, which I'm sure combines with my previous statement to explain why I don't remember much. I know a lot of people are saying this is not normal, and maybe it isn't. But I was the same as you. I couldn't remember my childhood for all of my teenage years and well into my early 20s. It turned out I have trauma from emotional abuse that I needed to process. I had to process the bad stuff before I could remember the good times. I'm 28 now and I'm beginning to recall the details. Don't worry if you can't remember it now. It'll come back to you eventually. Meanwhile, I would suggest going to a therapist and working through whatever it is that's blocking your memories. I'm 36 and can remember specific memories for most of my life. I can have flashes sometimes. Fuzzy things. But not like actual conversations or events. I always assumed it was because I had social anxiety and so didn't do much in school besides go and come home not talking to anyone. No clubs or sports. Every day was the same. College was a little different, but since then it has also been pretty much the same every day. Looking through these responses though, maybe I should see if this is an actual brain issue or trauma related. I am in therapy but haven't talked about memory. Too hot to sleep? Not particularly. I'm freezing constantly and my partner is a furnace. I want lots of blankets. He wants his one thin blanket. I imagine this would help in your scenario. It would keep the heat a bit more contained on her side. And protected on your side. Sounds weird, but wearing some sweatpants and socks and at least a t-shirt helps. When bare skin touches her, heat can mix with yours easier. The clothes help insulate you and still allow you to use the same blanket. Still gets too hot sometimes though. My wife is freezing all day. But once in bed she reached thermonuclear levels of heat. It's her best defense against any advance she may or may not be in the mood for. Cooling gel pillow. Bamboo fiber sheets. Separate blankets. Sleeping naked also makes you feel hotter because your sweat collects on your body and it feels icky. Instead, wear soft cotton materials. They are breathable and help wick the moisture, helping you feel cool and dry. Use separate sheets/blankets. It'll prevent blanket stealing and it'll trap the heat within her blanket. My husband and I have had different blankets for 7 years now. Speaking as the furnace of the relationship, we have a fan on her side of the bed that blows over both of us, so my heat doesn't get into her territory. We also have a king-size bed so we have just enough room to spread out. Many people have dealt with the same. I run cold. And my boyfriend is a furnace. We have a regular comforter. And then I have another comforter. Twin-sized. That goes on my half of the bed. That way we can set the heat lower for him. But I'm still nice and warm. Eventually. Think after we move in together. I believe the plan is to just get separate blankets altogether. But for now, this seems to do the trick for us. How do you keep going when you get the message over and over that you don't matter? That you don't count as a person? Well, it depends a lot on the context. Sometimes it's not really other people that directly send that message. But us reading into their actions, I don't matter to them and quad. Maybe even because of small stuff like them not always texting first or not always having time because they are very busy at the moment. Sometimes we really don't matter to someone and then we should distance ourselves from them. As opposed to trying harder. Sometimes we do things to push people away. If you could provide a bit more information, I think this might get you better advice. If it's you, know that we're here. We're strangers but we've been through the same. You do matter. We all do. We don't need to prove anything to anybody and neither do you. You are enough just as you are and this day is precious to us all. Reach out to people that make you feel safe and if there are few of those, know you can choose the ones around you that can provide safe spaces. But if you can afford it, invest in therapy because what you are lacking is something you weren't meant to know by yourself but something your parents were meant to give you in the first place, a strong sense of self-esteem. We're here for you. I just left a job where I was on contract for a year. The managing director made me feel like I was less important than the deadlines. I lost my dog to cancer. My husband was going through mental crisis and with work stress through that entire period. I got time off. Yes. But it was abundantly clear that I was now behind at work. She made me feel like a machine. I've worked at much larger organizations who have given more of a shit about me. Work made me so anxious that my heart rate was crazy. And there's only so much anxiety medication you can take. I'm lucky I didn't relapse back to drinking after being sober for years. Never again. Gentlemen, what do you do if two people are falling for you? Do you make a choice? First, you don't have to choose if you don't want to. It's perfectly acceptable to take the stance that you will not choose. And if they aren't on that level, then they can choose to not be interested anymore. I'm not saying you should play both fields here. But in monogamy you aren't bound to a single person until you've mutually made the commitment to do so with a single person. Don't think you aren't allowed to date two people. With that, however, I strongly recommend disclosing your intentions with all involved parties. It is the right thing to do. Just understand that unless you are very clear on where you stand with both, You will likely lose both. And while that is kind of a fun place to be, it's unfair to lead them both on. I was this position at 16 to 17. But life circumstances meant I didn't get either of them because at 18 I met my now wife. And though there was some tough emotions involved, I still know both of them. And even though we don't have much contact, we are all still good friends. And all have our own families now. Be straightforward. And honest. And even if things don't work out like you image, at least you don't have burned bridges with good friends. Honestly, I've been here. It feels really intense right now. It will not feel intense in like a week. Go ahead and chill. Let it foment. It's as likely as one as none as both will still be falling for you in a week. If it goes a month, then you need to choose. That can suck not because there is a right or wrong, but because it's as likely the one you choose ends quickly and badly as the other one. You don't know what the future holds. Make strong choices. Be true to yourself. Choose what you want. If two people are falling for you and one isn't what you want, just grow the balls and tell her.